Hi, David.
Hey, Jean Catherine.
Hello.
Hey,
Hi,
Corey.
Corey.
Okay,
Doing okay,
cool.
David.
Okay, so I am the only, oops, turn myself off here.
Before we get started, if everybody could put your name and your special interest group that you're representing into the chat, that way we can get an accurate participant count, please. Corey, Mike, and Justin. I haven't seen anybody log in for a few. Did you want to get started? Or wait a few more minutes?
Maybe give it about 5 more minutes max, or usually I usually say 5. It's 7:02, so 7:05 would be fine.
Okay, doke.
Can you hear me okay, Catherine?
Yep.
All right.
And you can see your presentation?
Yes, I can.
Awesome. Ready. It is 6:07, and anybody who new has joined, if you haven't already, if you could please put your name and the special interest group that you represent into the chat so we can get an attendance logged, that would be great. And this is the second meeting of the community engagement for the Los Alamos County BMX racetrack. We have Mike McIntyre and Justin Travis with us today.
Yes.
And I will be quiet and run the slides from the back end. Just let me
Thank
know when
you.
you want to flip them.
Yeah, and I think, Catherine, one thing that I wanted to preference on this meeting is the red comment with the asterisk about the request to make tonight still an open forum status for additional input for those who might have missed meeting number 1 and those who also attended.
You were the 50th.
I'm sorry? Oh, can you hear me okay?
Go ahead, you're good.
Okay. For those who attended in the first meeting, to also provide additional feedback, post discussions from that first meeting. So no decisions have been made other than the request to take all the input. I want to thank everyone for their letters, their emails, and their calls. And my task was to gather and compile and scan and get that over to the county. So we're compiling all input on the track location and opinions and ideas. And hopefully if there is any more from the BMX community present, can talk a little bit more about concept, not necessarily pinned location. So with that being the case, we have a little bit of a redundancy from the first meeting. So if we could go to the agenda. So if you want to go ahead and introduce who's on the Los Alamos County end, and I'll go to my slide a little bit later. But tonight we're just going to go a little bit faster than last time. I think we read every line item on the project history, but just looking at the 2019 to where we are today. Reiterate the intent of the track is a local level track, not regional, not national. This would be a sanctioned track facility and insured by USA BMX is the intent. And we're gonna once again visit the project location that has been on the site for 2019 to 24. Once again, this is not a yes or no. This is just a more feedback session tonight. And also, for that racetrack, what are those anatomy considerations? What complements it, what is needed, and what would impact the site? Also, I've got some questions that we'd like to go over for the public input questions for the riders and non-riders, those that are parents and friends that may be not riding. Where do they go? How do they park, etc. And then also look at, for those, if we have people on the BMX racetrack, anatomy considerations. For the smaller local track and the size, what type of layout could fit in there. So it is not a track design for the site. It's just a diagram to show what shapes may fit into that site for consideration. And then also we'll go to the next steps discussion and then adjourn from there. So I see some familiar names from the first meeting. Once again, all your feedback was taken very seriously, scanned, documented, and the county has it. And that also has an impact on everything on next steps. So with that, let's go to the next slide, Catherine. If you want to go over the BMX track history, or if I could maybe we just bullet point the inception of 2019 with the intent to get the track going. And then there are some, liability and safety concerns with the, volunteers trying to build it with heavy equipment. So it kind of went into, unfortunately, 2020 went into COVID, and then coming out of that, community service director wanted to really get a scope and have it more professionally planned and designed and not have the community bring their equipment in and kind of freestyle the build. From there was proposals presented in 2021, and then going into, it was more of a grandiose response, I believe. So in 2022, 2023, it went more into another RFP proposal through procurement. And we're here to assess the site, size, location, along with USA BMX. And most importantly, have all the community input we can and look at those impact considerations. We did have a meeting June 20th. That was our first public engagement meeting. During that meeting, I think we had about 98. I don't even know if that would be maybe 98, 99, where most equestrian and adjacent recreation users. And we had one BMX rider present. And then here we are today on the 31st. And we'll have to, that's why we're having you sign in on an online so we can further grab those statistics and look at what direction this project might steer. So we're at public engagement meeting number 2. So project team, Los Alamos County, if you wanted to do any introductions, Catherine, and then I can go to my slide after.
So Catherine Hudspeth, Recreation Superintendent with Los Alamos County.
All right, I think you're the only representative. And then I'm Mike with Action Sports Design, New Mexico landscape architect, and do planning, design, and community engagement for wheel sports and USA BMX sanctioned track facilities that we're assessing right now.
I believe Corey's here, but Corey Styron, who's the Community Services Director, is
Okay.
here. And Wendy Parker is online too. Her phone's probably not working all that great, so she is here as well.
Okay, awesome. And this will be recorded too, right, Catherine? Is that?
Yes, it is recording
Yeah.
right now.
Okay, excellent. So if someone couldn't make it, maybe they could take a look at tonight's presentation as well.
Oh, and Chelsea Elscraft is here too.
Oh, I see Chelsea. All right. So next slide, please. So as mentioned before, my specialty is in BMX track design, planning, design, engineering, public parks for other wheeled activities. And this is going on 25 years in professional practice, specifically targeted in the skate park and BMX park markets for municipalities. So this, I'm going to kind of go macro to micro through the process for anyone who may have not been in that first meeting. So I apologize to the group from the first meeting. There's going to be a little bit of redundancy, but I'm sure we have more feedback from you as well from the emails, letters, and post discussions. So the goal here is a local community track vision. It is multi-generational, could be 2-3 years old, pedalless bike, as shown on the left, to multi-generational, 70s, 80s age racing. It's non-motorized bikes in the 20-inch, 24, 26-inch realm, which is smaller than mountain bikes typically, which might be in that 27, 29-inch wheelbase. So the overall program with this, this would have specific open practice days or open for practice and approximately 2 days a week for racing. That program is not determined at this point. It'll be member-based sanctioned district and state points are capable for those that want to attend those sanctioned races. This would be a community track operator and volunteers that would be setting it up for those race days. And with that, I think, Justin, did you want to comment on anything about the local program size?
Not at this time. So one of the most important things to remember about this is that riding bicycles is part of growing up, right? It is a major milestone in everybody's lives. And one of the big things to pull from that is that although it's one of the #1 sports that's participated in by everybody in the country, it's one of the sports that doesn't have very much organized uh, leagues or activities, right? And so we are the #1 league and activity provider for organized cycling racing of all ages, right? So looking at the pictures, obviously, you have on one side an older adult who's enjoying themselves and having a great time recreationally, and you have a young child who's having just as much fun. And at the same time, tomorrow, the Olympic qualifying for BMX racing is happening at the Olympics, and the finals will be on Friday. So it's really, I mean, it's a major sport. It's a lot of fun, and in every area where it's just getting started, it does take a little bit to build up. So the local group is, right now they're small but mighty. But as it grows, every kid that learns how to ride a bike is going to say, "Hey, can I can I ride here? Can I do this? Can I compete?" And the best part about it is parents, grandparents. My son competes with my wife and my father. So it's his grandfather all at the same track, and they get to spend that time together racing bikes and having a good time. They do it every single Sunday at our local facility. So definitely, good for everybody involved.
Thanks, Justin. Okay, next slide, please. So going about the difference between programmed and unprogrammed, this is a programmed individual sport activity. And it would provide that opportunity for those that wanted to be part of a, it could be a new race league. It could be just them getting started from novice to intermediate to expert to maybe, like Justin was saying, tomorrow to being, in the Olympics. So that's what makes this different than maybe a skate park or something. You just go and it's open free play. There's no organized opportunities during the week to ride that skate park or that pump track. So next slide, please. So USA BMX, I know, had provided a letter of intent to sanction Los Alamos BMX track. When and should it come to fruition? Next slide, please. And along with a smaller local track, there is opportunities where they could also host a annual state race or 2 Gold Cup regional qualifiers each year. So everyone has that opportunity to host those events. All right, now let's get down to the fun stuff. All right, so for those that may be on air that aren't familiar where the proposed location for the BMX track, when it was kind of attempted to be a freestyle build in 2019, it's at the North Mesa, right off North Mesa Park Road. It has an ingress, egress, vehicular circulation into it. Adjacent to the proposed BMX site and adjacent to the existing parking, traffic would lead in at an angle to what would probably be a empty gravel lot and or asphalt at a future date, but as a minimum it'd be designated. And on the north of that blue parking area would be a perimeter chain link fence there, so cars that come in, they are not driving directly out north towards the to the horse arena. Potential staging, rider staging can occur where the yellow rectangle is to go in and get ready for your race, where the start hill is, or that rider staging area could be on the opposite side. So that has a spatial opportunity to be on the left or the right. The BMX track is, more in the center, and that's around, 135 to 335 in length for that track to fit in there. I believe the overall area available is 390 by 163 within that envelope. There is one restroom facility that the county had suggested could be used, where the orange line goes to there, and that was, the green line was a tree fence and tree and shrub buffer between the two recreational areas of the equestrian facility and the BMX track. So that's where things are today, and that was the general design intent going in. Next slide. A little bit closer look at the vicinity. Green area, that would be 4-foot black vinyl chain link fence, similar to a softball, baseball field. And then that would continue along the north, going east-west of that blue square. So that area would be kind of cut off there. So it would encourage people to, if they park, they can go into the staging or go through the parking lot, restroom, and sit along the the south side of that BMX track. So let's see what we got on the next slide. These are some questions that we had specifically for, and this is redundant from those that were in the first meeting, for the riders. And with that, I'm gonna ask the question, do we have any BMX racers, riders on this call? Other than Justin and I. And from what I can see.
So I believe we do. At least we got some more participants on the call, but I don't know if they understood that they were supposed to leave their names on there. And I know that some of them told me that they were going to be. There we go. Somebody just jumped on there, Janelle Samberson, but they're muted. So we've got them here. Family, kids, parents.
Okay. So is any of the BMXers available to unmute and ask you some questions? There.
I think they're driving to get to practice for one of the other facilities.
Okay. So what we had done, everyone that can hear, is we went through the intent of asking public input questions for those riders to get a better understanding where they're currently riding and or racing. And the one attendee, I mentioned that Albuquerque is her closest track that she had gone to and raced. And then so that was kind of the most local for those that are residents of Los Alamos. And family members for that one person there was, and I believe it was like 3 years, 2-3 years max on the number of years riding. And what input I'm seeing on the track is, the capability of having it more maintenance free, soil tax, slurry coated surface, weather resistant, so it could be ridden on all those free ride practice days as well, and not be shut down frequently. And then I can summarize this on the public input question, the non-riders. That was because we only had one feedback. Maybe I could ask in general, Justin, if you want to talk about how far the typical drive is for most people and how you would foresee Los Alamos. I mean, it'd be a short distance for residents, but they would, if they're racing there, they're going to go elsewhere, and it'd pretty much be Duke City in Albuquerque. And would it be Hot Chili? And can you maybe some other tracks that you foresee future BMXers going to?
Yeah, so the way that it works is typically we like to make sure that there's a track inside any given recreational jurisdiction, right? So that means that Los Alamos as a recreational jurisdiction is going to be separate from Santa Fe and separate from Albuquerque. It's no different than baseball. As a matter of fact, the usage rate tracks very similar to baseball, and 80% of the participants at any given facility are 100% local oriented within that community. Now you do have people just like baseball and soccer where they start traveling, right? They'll do a travel league. In BMX, it's not so much a travel league as much as it's a travel series, and so you can choose individually to travel on that series. But the fun part about that is there is an impact where other people will come to your facility as well, and they bring outside economic impact to that facility. But yeah, everybody, the majority of the people using your facility are going to be 100% local people that live inside Los Alamos County and choose not to travel to other places. So it'd be like if you didn't have baseball fields, you couldn't offer a baseball program. Exact same situation. You need to be able to offer the facility in order to offer the program, and more people, generally ride bicycles than participate in other sports combined, because it's all ages and it's a major milestone in life.
I mean, that is a good point. Something I have seen. It is a little bit of the field of dreams. Typically, if you build it, they'll come for the community. If statistically everyone's got a bike in their garage, BMX, mountain bike, or around that range. If the facility is there, then the ridership will come from the community, from the schools. If there's a, elementary, middle school, and high school in Los Alamos, it'll create a lot of cyclists and healthy exercise. And I can reiterate this: the community from the first meeting, no one is opposed to, the concept of BMX and everyone riding. So it's not really a pro BMX discussion. But it was very dynamic and excellent input on the impacts of the space adjacency next to, the stables. So that's where I gathered all that data and got it over to the county to discuss that. And as of this point, there's not been discussions or availability to look at another location. So that's why they said, let's get another open forum, get more input, and ultimately see what, if we do see some riders right now, and it looks like it's a little bit sparse. So with that, I'll go to the next slide. I don't know if we could, since we don't have any riders online, this was strictly a diagram. This is not the track, but this is what would typify a local track within that footprint. That takes two configurations would be optimum. So if we look at these next diagrams, these are not.
Hang on 2 seconds. Hang on 2 seconds. Aaron's trying to walk up.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, sorry. If we go to the next slide, this is just showing for a BMX track, there's the start hill. I don't know if you can point to the top left diagram with the gray. There's a start hill on the BMX track, a little bit higher. The gray, yeah, the gray there. So that would be where the riders would be at the top of the start hill. This would be a lower hill. This would probably be a 2 meter. So I mean, just a little over 6 feet for that start hill. That descends down, and this is what they call a turn within a turn on the outside. So you go down the outer berm and snake all the way around. And I would say this track from start to finish, for most in that beginner intermediate level, probably 40 to 45 seconds from start to finish on this race. So it's not a lap. It's start to finish, like running the 440 one time around the track. So it's a start to finish. It's a sprint sport, technically. A lot of riders in the advanced area, when you're age and proficiency, you're clipped in like a road biker into your pedals. So that would be from start to finish. And then there's an opportunity on a site like this where the start hill, where you have a turn within a turn, where the staging could be on the far lower right of the site. And then there's a M track layout And that just goes like the letter M. It's a turn and then a turn and then a turn in the back, like with the letter M. So these are the most conducive to try to get a 900 linear foot track center line. And this is what would typify, you know, a track footprint within that, you know, 135 from outside of track to outer, and then across from the start hill to the other end would be about 335 linear feet. So once again, these are not the track designs. These are exhibits for a local track, approximate layouts that take into consideration if a start hill is on the top left or bottom right. Okay, any questions about configurations on a local smaller track? Okay, so the public input questions, adjacent recreation users. In the first meeting, we went through that, and I would say over 95% more were equestrian riders and facility users with the facility just north. And there's a big concern, and I'm just summarizing this. I apologize if I'm not being too specific, but big concern about the activities coexisting and what those bicycles can do, or adjacent riders in a group gathering, more or less, for something that's sanctioned and organized racing, what that might have as an impact to the equestrian center facility as well. So that's all those were taken, and nothing really has been set in stone other than gathering the data and all the concerns and how that's going to impact you know, the future possibilities of the facility. So tonight we did not really have any BMX racetrack input in terms of a direction for that next meeting. What kind of layout is preferred, M shape or turn within a turn? Adjacent recreation use design considerations. I think we have a really robust list from that last meeting, and you know, emails, phone calls, everything's been compiled, scanned, and has been sent to the county from ASD on that. And with that, I think what we should do, Catherine, if it's okay, is open up for public comment, especially those that were in the public meeting, to maybe discuss or bullet point those key concerns. You know, despite having been writing, I think this is a public meeting and open forum. So feel free to talk from the equestrian aspect of the project.
Okay. David Hampton, I saw your hand go up first. Go ahead and unmute.
Thanks. So I was at the Parks and Rec meeting before I actually joined Parks and Rec in 2019, and I was also at the council meeting where they were.
David, you froze.
I can hear him.
Yeah.
I see your mic going up and down, but we can't hear you.
Let me
We
try
can hear
again.
him.
So I was at the Parks and Rec meeting where it was approved, and I was at the council meeting where it was approved in 2019, and I can't recall any public comment against the location at that time. And I'm just curious, what has changed in the last 5 years, or was I wrong? Was there public comment against that location?
There was not public comment against the location.
In the first public meeting, there was definitely concerns in, you know, in everyone's defense. It was not anti-BMX. It was not anti-BMX facility. It was concerns rooting down to safety and other aspects about the two activities coexisting to it. With those conceptual layouts that I was showing, just diagrammatic about the need for visual buffering and separating and encouraging traffic flow of vehicles to go into a space as far away in park, and possibly staging could be put on the far right, the farthest point away. But there was definitely concerns about spooking horses and the two coexisting. So that's the opposition that I had, and I don't say opposition, it was the concerns that were addressed in public meeting number 1. I can't
So
speak for 2019 to my first public meeting.
I think what David and I'll maybe paraphrase a little bit is that this was a project that was kind of approved in 2019, and then it got hung up and made a little bit. There was some things that kind of had to be gone through, and I think what David asked is, what's different about it now than it was in 2019?
Yeah.
Right. So it's why
I've raised my hand. I'm wondering if can I speak to that?
Absolutely. I don't see the hand raised, but
Oh,
yes,
sorry.
please.
Okay, this
No,
is
you're good.
Lisa Reeder. I'm a stable licensee, but I am also a former member of the Parks and Recreation Board. So first of all, for those of you who were not there at the last meeting, this project actually goes back a lot farther than 2019. This project was actually proposed while I was on the Parks and Recreation Board back in the mid to late 90s. And it was well received. It was presented by a group of youngsters, and they came with a tabletop demonstration of what they wanted, and it was really pretty cool. And it was marching forward, and then we had the Cerro Grande fire. The original location for it on the North Mesa was on the complete opposite end of the park, not near the stables. Therefore, there was no real concern about it from the horsemen. Okay. And David, to your question, the reason that nobody objected to it at the county council meetings was because none of us knew that it was being heard. We were never notified. The licensees are not considered legally affected parties, and we don't watch every single agenda to find out when something that may concern us is being heard. And if it says bicycles, we don't always pay attention. So we didn't know that the location at that point was going to still remain, where it had been temporarily put during the Cerro Grande fire. So that's why there has never been a lack of concern for the location. That's always been an issue for us.
Makes sense.
So hopefully that helps answer some of those questions. But this has been going on a lot longer than 2019.
That's very helpful. Thank you. And I wasn't aware of it before 2019.
This is Wendy Burke-Ryan, if I can speak. I have a couple things, but I'll just say one thing right now to that. I think also having bikes actually going on that track where it is now gave the riders a real life lesson about how dangerous it is. We've had people basically bucked off their horses when they saw bikes flying into the air onto a gravel road. It's really dangerous. Actually, one of our excuse me, I just dropped my phone. One of our licensees just got a really bad concussion from that happening, but it wasn't because of the bike. But anyway, I'm just saying that having it there has given us a real world concern.
Thank you, Wendy. David, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons I'm concerned about possibly being moved to like White Rock or somewhere is, I mean, this thing's already 4 years behind schedule. It was supposed to be finished in May of 2020 if we wouldn't have had certain things happen. And if we decide to move it somewhere else, that location is going to have to be vetted. It could be years. It could wind up canceling this project altogether.
So this is Wendy again. Would I have two things about that. Would just moving it to a different place in the park, which was its original intent, that wouldn't cause it to be dropped. And the other thing is, even if it did take 4 years, which I can't imagine that it would if you just moved it to a different place in the park, it's going to be there for a long, 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 long time. So why would we want to spend the money and put it in a place where it's dangerous? Frankly, I don't even understand why there's been as much design work as you've already done between the last meeting and this one, when there's a very good chance that it could be moved.
Well, originally, like David said, it was actually approved, right? And so, yes, I hear what everybody's saying. You know, you weren't notified, you didn't watch it. I do understand that, and I hear that. However, I think his concern is, hey, this was approved. Why is it not done? And if it was approved and not completed in the last 5 years in its current location, what's the real life situation going to be when if it's decided to be moved, right? Like when something's approved in a certain location and the design work was done on it, it's actually been done multiple times. It can be tough for the other side and those stakeholders and members of the community. And honestly, some of them have just left. They've decided that they feel disenfranchised with the politics and red tape of all of it, and they're like, hey, this isn't going to happen, you know, and so it's difficult because of those feelings. So I do understand that, and that's why people are concerned with moving it, because it might not ever happen if it gets moved. And I'm not saying that putting it there is the correct answer.
It took 21 years to get our indoor arena built, 21 years. And we stuck with it. So if they really want a BMX track, they should stick with it.
Thank you, Wendy. Georgia, I see it. Your hand is up. Did you have something to add?
Yes, thank you. The location, the scope of the size and activities expected to be going on at the current location for the BMX track is squishing it in there where there's already active tennis courts, active trailhead, and all the horse activities going on at the stable area. And the horses and people are out there 365 days a year. It's not a seasonal sport. So that's why we're concerned. We are not against a BMX track. You know, we think it's a great idea, but not in that specific location. I can remember, even though David Hampton can't, but I can remember showing up and saying with a group of other stable owners, that's not a very good place for a BMX track right there. I was there. And so it's that specific location that's a problem. The kids that got relocated, they had built their own little track over by Loma Linda. You know, everybody felt bad for them and wanted to do something. And this, you know, it was, you know, there was a lot more emotional stuff to it. And also as far as for our sports, having to travel to specific and specialized tracks, BMX riders are not the only ones. You know, those of us who have raced sports cars had to go out of state to get to tracks and races. So I know what you have to go through to have fun with your sport and to participate in it, to succeed in it. So it would be nice to have one here, but I don't think that specific location, I think that specific location needs more work. And I think that to relocate it when it's still in the design stages would be the best thing. Thank you.
Very well heard. I know that there's some frustration on the advocate side from especially parents with kids, right? You said, hey, it took 20 years for us to get our arena. If you have a 4-year-old child, by the time 20 years happens, they're going to be gone in college. And if there's nothing, there, and there's not reinvestment in youth, and there's not additional programs, especially one that's proven to be one of the larger youth participated programs in the country, when facilities go in, the question then is, how is that fair to the kids? Because then they're not kids anymore, right? And so the goal is to find a solution that can help everybody, but also, it shouldn't be 10 years, right? Especially after approvals been given. And that's, Lisa actually just said that is 21 years to get something built isn't something to be proud of and say somebody else should have to do that as well. It's something to say, how can we do better next time, right? Lisa in the comments says that her daughter never even got to use the indoor, right? And they had to travel. And the nice part about traveling is the people that can afford it, that's great. But again, 80% of the people in the community, especially that race or play t-ball, they don't travel. They don't travel. If you didn't have a baseball field, right, kids aren't going to travel to Albuquerque to play baseball. They're just not going to be able to play baseball. They're going to be left with doing something in town, right? Which isn't always the best option. So I would challenge that those statements are not growth oriented, or let's do better the next time around, right? How can we make this happen?
Hey, Justin,
This time?
this is supposed to be listening to the public. So let's keep listening to them, and let's try to back off on the editorial a little bit, because we really need to hear from them. I know a lot of them have already spoken.
Yeah. Can you talk?
Yeah.
Oh,
I guess my question would be does anybody have anything else to add that wasn't discussed at the first meeting, or you feel that you want to reiterate, or is there something new you would like to bring to the table? Thank you.
Thanks, Corey.
Yes, this is Garth Reeder. I'd like to comment a little bit about this. I've been on the periphery of all this. My wife, because we are stable owners, and I also have experience in project development, design, and all. And there's a lot of unanswered questions here that are being brushed over. And it's unfortunate that we are disenfranchising part of the community here by doing so. The big question, I have two of them, is what is wrong with alternate locations? Why are they off the table? Why have they just been summarily rejected? The other question I have is, in any infrastructure project such as this, you need to have all the other bits and pieces associated with the planning, parking, access, restrooms, all that. We're not seeing any of this, and it's being glossed over. And I think in the overall picture of things, that having that data will sort of start driving decisions more so than just some squiggly BMX track pictures that we have already. I'm not belittling this. I think having options for the community is great, but I think if they're improperly executed, then they will just they'll lose interest, it'll be gone, and it'll be a waste of time and money. So I would encourage those associated with this project to start looking at a bigger picture here. Again, with parking, access, safety, impacts to other infrastructures that we have. I mean, yes, it does take time, and if people are interested in it for the sport, then they'll be in it for the long run. If you're just interested for your kids for the next 3 years, well, that's another thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, yes, this is Wendy again. I'm sorry, but I can't figure out how to put my hand up, or I would. Anyway, so just a couple of other things. Speaking to the idea that it's, kids and adults and everybody rides bikes. I agree. I'm a cyclist. I love cycling. However, horses, equestrian activities are very, very, very much it's multi-generational. Basically, you've got the grandkid riding grandma's horse, and at a horse show, you've got all the grandparents, aunts and uncles, and everybody else there cheering the little kid on, and vice versa. So it's the same. And last meeting, somebody mentioned how important it is to have a BMX track because supposedly there are college scholarships for BMX racing. There are, I investigated that, not a lot of them, but there are a tremendous number of colleges that give scholarships for riding. So, I mean, we want to take care of our equestrians as much as we also want to take care of our BMX people, both. And to the fact that there's kids out here, kids riding their horse along that road coming back from the arena, and a bike going, into the air and scaring the heck out of the horse for a little kid. It's really dangerous. I mean, we as equestrians are as safe as we can possibly be. We wear helmets and all that kind of stuff, but there's no excuse for the county putting an extra danger right there, and it's totally unnecessary. Also, I had one more comment. I've been curious. There were 2 people from the BMX world at the last meeting, and I don't see many at this meeting. But there are a heck of a lot of us from the stables here, and we really, really care about this. And honestly, I think you should have delineated what all the concerns are on your presentation so that people can be aware of them, because it really looks to me like you're just heading down a road and not listening to anything we're saying. Sorry, I don't mean to sound rude, but that's just the impression that I get. I'm done.
I do have one question. Is the primary safety that you keep referring to visual? Is it, I'm assuming you don't want to ride the horse near a car coming by you or other, elements of speed. Is it something that you just don't want to see the track visually, period? Or is it a audio? Is it a little bit, just pose that question. I'm just asking. We do have facilities where we do have to put earthen mounds between the 2 facilities. Sometimes it's a neighborhood and other things that are great, graded, mounds that are, so from the stables you wouldn't see the track, or I know
It would have to be a very high mound, and it would take up an awful lot of your track. I mean, for you to build something that high, it's going to also have to have a lot of breadth at the bottom to support it.
How many?
And that's,
how far are you riding your horse off the current fence? You got that roadway, you got 75 feet or so from the
They ride
Signs.
all along in there. They ride all along in there. Sometimes they ride into, up to the fence, on the
Yeah.
road. I mean, basically, if they're in this area that is designated for horses, they just ride everywhere. So, I don't
And
know
Mike,
what's the highest that a cyclist ever goes in the air?
but it's not, that is part of it, Mike. This is Lisa here. That is part of it. Part of it is the audio, the noise as
Yeah.
well. And part of it, as Garth mentioned, is the infrastructure. Right now, the only
Exactly.
bathrooms are on the stable side. Right now, there's no major parking. Right now, there's no shade or grandstands, things that I can't remember which person mentioned that those are things that that the BMXers would like to see as well. So the entire infrastructure question and as well, and the other group of people that have not, I don't know whether they've been really informed or understand, are the young parents who use the tot lot over there and the tennis courts. We haven't seen any representation there either. Maybe it doesn't bother them or they don't care, but it will impact them. So if you're talking about doing organized practices and having races and what have you, that involves, a need for parking and restrooms and what have you, which will all spill over into the stable area. Those are concerns that we have as well. It's not just the noise, although honestly, the noise is a major one. So.
I just want to point out Dan has his hand up.
Yep. Dan, go ahead and unmute.
Hey, Dan, you're on mute.
Looks like,
Where did-
no, he put his hand down. He remained muted. Dan, if you had something to say, feel free to unmute yourself.
Yeah. Dan, if you hover your over your picture, you should see it pop up where it says mute or unmute. I don't know if it works.
I think he's on his phone.
Yeah.
I don't know what the control looks like on the phone. I saw that he turned his video off and on though.
Yeah. Does anybody have anything else to add?
I would like to just ask a question. This is Wendy again. To Garth's point, I would like to know, it appears as though you, and I'm saying Parks and Rec, have plans for the rest of all that open space, and that you have no intention of ever even considering moving the BMX track. And I would like to know if that's the case.
So I'll take that one. So Wendy, the only reason the BMX track is in the same location is that, as was stated earlier, that was where the groups had started it. It had been there since the Cerro Grande fire. That was where it was started from, and that's what I inherited to work with. The second part of your question is very shortly, probably this fall, there will be a more formal process that entire North Mesa, what we're calling recreation area. There'll be a master plan for all of that. If this project goes sideways, then it'll be able to be vetted in that entire area with other things that have been brought up or on a list. And it's going to be really critical to have that conversation since there is conversations about the North Mesa housing up there, which will bring in 200 to 300 homes. I think Arbolada is looking at 100 homes up there. So it is time to look at that one. No, we do not have any preconceived ideas of what goes in there, but we would like to have a community conversation about what should go in that area, what should it look like, or should anything go in there, and just know that. So those are the only two reasons. One, this was already an existing site that, again, it was dilapidated in use. That's where the funding went. We hear you guys loud and clear on this. And then again, the second piece is probably this fall, we'll have a larger conversation about that entire area, all the way from the soccer field down to the tennis courts.
Thank you, Corey. I appreciate that answer. So at least we don't feel like we're beating our head against a wall.
Is there anybody else that wants to? Anybody else want to provide your inputs? Again, you've all, thank you for your information. If you think of something after the fact, I think all of you know how to get in touch with us. Again, thank you for your time. Going once, going twice. Thank you so much. Y'all all have a great evening. I appreciate it.
All right, thanks. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, meeting adjourned. I'm going to stop recording and get this downloaded. Thank you, everybody.